what do you believe this new worldview might look like, especially compared to our current understanding of things in the Western world?
Yeah. Yeah, of course I have. Of course I have guesses. I mean, that's why one writes. I mean, I do think this notion of the humanist too is really crucial, that we're not just social animals, that we extend beyond that. We're cosmic presences who inhabit an organic and socially conditioned body, but we're much more than that. Um, I think the future will not look like the present. I don't think, it depends on how far in the future you want to talk about. Are we talking about our grandkids, or are we talking about, 100 generations from now? I think it really matters. And I know from the history of religions, that I know that religions don't last. They're born at particular times, and they dissipate. And then other religions, or maybe something we're not even going to call religion, develops. I'm not attached to the word religion. I think worldview is probably a better descriptor here.
Yeah, that brings us back to the terminology. I'm using the world. Using the term worldview, but you could also say like the nature of reality, the fabric of the universe.
Yeah,
And depending on what I say, it will evoke like a different line of thinking in your brain, which makes this.
I mean, if I if I'm sitting on a plane and I don't want to talk to anyone, when they ask me what I do, I just say I'm a professor of religion. That shuts people up right away. You know,
Well,
um,
lucky for you,
if
you
I were
never
an
sat next to me.
if I were an anthropologist or a sociologist or a historian, I mean, that would be interesting. But instead, oh my God, that's awful. So there's some kind of conversation killer about the category today that I think is understandable, and justifiable on many levels. But I think there's a confusion. I don't think religious experience is religion. Let me put it that way. I think people have religious experiences all the time that actually don't fit in to their religious surrounds. And I think when we say the word religion, people just think hard pew, racial or gender bigotry, or some kind of exclusive worldview that I think should be questioned and should be rejected. So I'm not a fan of institutional religion, but I am a deep supporter of people's religious experiences because they have them. What I mean, come on, they just exist. So why not talk about them? And these experiences want to be talked about. I guess that's the deeper issue. When someone has a near-death experience or a psychedelic experience, these are usually coded in language, by the way, or in images, and a story, a narrative, and the story wants to be told. That's why they had that experience. And when you tell that story, it enters a public realm, and it interacts with other stories, and it changes the story slightly, or in a major way, depending on how effective it is. I think people are caught in stories, and I think most of those stories don't serve us well, cause us to suffer. So I think what's happening with a lot of these exotic experiences is the experiences themselves are trying to push us out of the stories we're in.
Speaking of stories and experiences, do you think we can comprehend or understand UAPs and the reality that they in religious experience are pointing to? Or do you rather think it requires us to adopt a fundamentally different state of consciousness or a higher state of consciousness to get a better perspective of what reality is?
I think we can become that reality, or awaken to it. I don't think we can know it in a cognitive or mathematical or scientific way. I think I think knowing it cognitively or scientifically or mathematically is by definition not becoming it. You're stepping outside it, and so becoming it is a very different process. Um, in a very different way of being and knowing in the world. And again, that's what mystical traditions do. But again, they code themselves in particular ways that I think people would find unhelpful. So to me, there's a new story aborning or developing that requires us to become it and not just tell it. But I don't know what that story is. I'm a character in the movie that's happening. So to ask me, okay, well, who's showing the movie? I don't know. I'm just a guy in the movie. So are you, by the way. And but in Jock's terms, to turn around and look at the projector at the back of the theater is a different kind of process. It's a different question. But that's really what I'm asking people to do, is realize that they're inside a movie and to start to question that movie.